Virtual accessibility should be inclusive. Incorporating live caption for the remaining of the virtual sessions would be important. That's a suggestion from someone in the audience. Again, by an anonymous attendee. Moving on to the next question, which is from Helen Walsh. And asking, how can we keep in touch with your work? Who would like to answer that?
This is Jade here. I actually already answered that, but does anyone want to add to that? Feel free to go ahead.
Martha Angers is saying I can answer that.
This is Martha here. Can we get a spotlight? Okay.
Yes, Erin is saying we have a spotlight on you now.
Okay, I wanted to make sure my mute was off. Okay. So certainly you can find us anywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or feel free to go ahead and just do a Google search. You can look for Deaf Talent Entertainment. We have our own website, as well as those social media platforms. If you want to reach out to us individually via social media, you can go ahead and type in our name and you should be able to find us that way. So I feel there's so many different ways you can reach out to find us. You know, if you are looking for any specific resource, anything in the Hollywood industry, any particular person you want to reach out, particularly into looking for some BIPOC talent, some filmmakers, we have access to a very good network that we are happy to partner with you or help you reach those resources. So feel free to go ahead and reach out to us for your future work. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Martha. Next, we're gonna spotlight Adrienne. And Adrienne is saying, yes, please do spotlight me. Adrienne's saying another way you can contact us is through email. It's info@deaftalent-entertainment.com. So that's an important email to use to reach out to our team. I hope that answers your question. And we can move on to the next one.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adrienne, for sharing. So I noticed that there was someone raising their hand. Did you want to ask a question? Rose, I noticed that you were raising your hand. Did you want to add something? Rose? Hey girl. Hello.
Yes, oh, what? Did you ask me something? Oh, yes, I just wanted to add to
Hold one
that
moment.
question.
Hold one moment while we make sure you're spotlighted.
Okay.
All right, Rose.
Okay, so how to follow our work? Am I spotlit now?
You're on spotlight.
Yes, so I just wanted to add how to follow our work. I think one of the best places for you to follow our work is at Jade's website. She's very active on her social medias as well, on Twitter. Twitter is where she is at all day, every day. So I think one of the best places to follow Jade's work is via Twitter.
Thank you so much, Rose. I believe Adrienne had something to add. Just one moment while we spotlight. Okay, Adrienne.
Adrienne's saying another place to contact us on social media is through Twitter at Jade Films. That's one venue, and also at Deaf Talent Media. That's another Twitter handle. So those are Twitter handles that we use. Very important accounts. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Adrienne's saying we can go to the next question.
Thank
And
you for
Martha's
staying so
saying,
long.
Jaren made a comment.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next question. I just want to pull that up. This is from April Scott, who's in our audience today. Hello, April. And so she said, hello, beautiful and inspiring people. I have a feeling that you were actually the first representing BIPOC at Sundance. And I believe this is for the second time. Am I right?
And there are yeses from the audience.
So who wants to answer this question directly? I believe you're the first to have representation here at Sundance, correct? Adrienne, you seem to be the one that's going to respond. Just give me one moment so I can spotlight you.
Okay. Adrienne is saying yes. This is the first time a deaf group has been online via Sundance, and it's a very historic occasion to have us here as the first deaf group representing. Thank you for your question.
Okay. Does anyone else want to add to that before we move on, or are we all good? You know, audience, if you do have some additional questions that you want to ask us in our panel, or if you have a specific question, feel free to go ahead and throw that in the Q&A area right at the bottom of your screen. You'll notice right next to the raise hand at the very end, there's a Q&A section. You can go ahead and type your inquiry right in the box there. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next question, who's from Adele Irvin. And Adele has asked, sorry, just give me a moment here. Adele is asking, do you already have a list of participating BIPOC deaf actors who are connected to your organization, DTMEC, or do you seek them upon request? Or do you already have your list of BIPOC actors ready at your organization, DTMEC? Jade, we'll turn this over to you to answer. Just give me a moment to spotlight.
Jade is saying, yes, we do. We have deaf talent casting. And this year we have around 50 BIPOC deaf actors. Some are new in the field, some are new in our organization. So yes, to answer your question, we do.
Okay. Thank you so much. Before I move on, does anyone else want to add to that? I thought I had seen some hands. Adrienne
saying yes, I had my hand up.
Adrienne, you're ready to go ahead? Oh, you have nothing to add. Okay, so
Jade said it all.
Going. Moving on to the next question. This is from April again, just saying, whoa, congratulations. Congratulations. Yes, I knew it. This is your second appearance at Sundance. Congratulations. We have our next comment or question from an audience attendee. And the question is, will we see you at any expos or festivals in the future?
Jade saying I can answer.
Okay, Jade, just one moment.
Jade is saying, okay, so are we going to be at expos, for example, Deaf Nation or Deaf festivals? I know there are so many out there, but do you have anyone in specific? I mean,
does that anonymous audience attendee want to expand on their question? Let me just take a moment to check the chat.
and I want to add something Jade is saying. I see Jaren George. Did you ask that or?
Oh, that's our next question, Jade. That's our next question.
Okay, so it is a very important question that Jaren's asking.
Let's go ahead and move on then. So our next question is from Jaren George. And Jaren has asked, you know, as someone who is not familiar with the politics of the entertainment world, are there any certain ways that we can advocate for more Black and Brown deaf representation in the entertainment industry? And that's Jaren's first question, which is followed up by a second question, which will hold and allow the response to the first question, the answer to the first question to be taken care of.
So we can go ahead and work in the order. Martha's saying I'll go and then just waiting for a spotlight. Jaren, thank you so much for your very, very important question. I'm really happy that you brought that up. I do want Adrienne to expand on it, but how can we advocate for more people? We want to show Hollywood as partners that they need to sit down, shut up, and listen. Keep an open heart, keep an open mind, and listen to us. And so the problem is out there, and we have a solution for them. And the big problem is attitude. And so we can recommend all of these actors, but the problem is their attitude. So they need to sit down, shut up, and listen so that we can eventually partner and have more BIPOC deaf talent in the future. And so for advocacy, I mean, we are self-advocates. The hearing world has no clue, honestly. And so we have to keep letting them know, keep showing them what we have, acting on that. And so once we partner with them, it'll become easy from there on out. Adrienne?
Thank you so much, Martha. I want to just add a little bit before we move on to Adrienne's response. And so there was another specific question from Jaren asking you where you got your shirt.
Yes, go to Jade Films website. And there's a shop. And if you look through the shop, there's different clothing options, masks, hats. Everything is available there. It is deaftalent-entertainment.com. So that is the website. So just click on the shop and you can see all of our clothing options there and you can get a shirt just like me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Martha. So next, Jaren had said, thank you. I'm definitely going to check that out and get myself a shirt.
Awesome. Love you.
Adrienne, you wanted to respond to that as well. I particularly love that question because it really just supports for DTMEC. Because this honestly, this industry really is important to have these partnerships. That means people with privilege and who are already in the industry need to step up and say, wait a minute, we need more BIPOC deaf people because there's no one represented here. So they need to step up and say, please, let's contact DTMEC and find some BIPOC deaf people who are perhaps actors, writers, directors that can speak up and share a lot of their time, because many times white people in Hollywood, when they say they want something or want that particular person or that particular role, people will listen. So that's why it's really important to speak up and use your positionality and your privilege to make space and ask for more representation, for more BIPOC deaf talent. So thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne. Now we're gonna work on moving over to Jade. Jade has a comment and wants to add something.
Thank you. So, when it comes to politics, it's difficult. Black people in general have challenges. We have to really work together. We have to put our egos aside, our personal differences, we have to put those aside and take this seriously, because Hollywood is a thriving opportunity for us, for all of us to work together. And honestly, through my experience, and I'm talking many years of experience, I have seen talented writers, I have seen talent out there that have not worked together. And I would say I have a role for you that we could, partner. And I have offered these opportunities, but they are often not taken. So I'm waiting to see. I love what I do. Obviously, because I started this agency, this organization. But we need to be leading in certain spaces. It's not about ego. It's not about what one person can do. It's not about me. I know I'm damn good, but sometimes we need to take that attitude and push it to the side and focus on the larger need in the community, representation of Black and Brown people, and to have more of that. Hollywood is saying that we can't work with you, and having they offer these different reasons. So the politics become respectable politics. And it is everywhere, honestly. It doesn't matter. It's in the LGBTQAI community. It's in the Black, Brown, it's all these communities. We have to pause and take a moment and look at ourselves and figure out how we can work together to advance together as a community. You know, I'm a part of this whole situation, but it's not all on me. We have to really look at each other and figure out where we connect and work together. So that's what I'm seeing. So that question is so critical, and I'm glad that you asked. It's really important that we advance and we, become movers and shakers. That way we can thrive in Hollywood. This is Erin. Okay, thank you so much, Jade. Appreciate your addition to that response. So again, just a reminder to the audience, feel free to go ahead and throw your questions into the Q&A, not into the chat area, please, over to the Q&A box. It's right next to the icon for raising your hand there. Thank you again. Now we'll move down to our next question. We have an anonymous attendee here with a question who's asking about your next production. When will this next production be available for the public so we can come see your work? And this question is directed at Jade.
Jade is saying, can you repeat the question?
Sure. So the anonymous attendee is asking about your next production that will be available for the public because they would like to come out and see your work. So when is this going to be available?
Jade is saying, actually, I'm busy building everything, trying to set up everything and work it all out. And so I do have a work in progress, a show working with someone in Hollywood right now. We've been in development for the past 2 years, and we were going to have to pick up where we left off back in November. I'm also pitching for some other shows with someone online. I cannot give their name. But our team, we're working on being co-writers with different characters and to highlight more, how do I put it? Just in depth. Obviously, there's some stuff at a superficial level, but I'm going to be meeting with my co-writer very soon. And so, yes, I am working with TV networks, and I guess I am doing independent work, TV shows. And I guess I have to do a lot of stuff myself. But Hollywood is what I'm focusing on, trying to take care of that work. I'm not a decision maker right now. I'm more of in the negotiation process, trying to connect with them and just being a co-creator for different episodes that are in production. So hopefully that something that you're able to see soon. If we get the green light and we can work on that. Who I'm working with, they get to decide when. So, but that's just what I'm focusing on right now. And also working with DTMEC and building that, our network of writers, working with them. And so between Hollywood and DTMEC, I also do have 5 other projects in the works. So yes, I have a lot of stuff that hopefully you're able to see soon.
Get it, girl, get it. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Next is quite a dense question from our audience member. It's actually a bit of a comment and a question from Buck Rogers. Hello, Buck. So Buck is saying hello to several of you. I remember you dearly. This is Buck Rogers here from Washington, sending you much love. And my dear friend, Vanessa Arneck, and I are together watching you. Unfortunately, she has no access from France. And so she has joined me all the way via my cam and background. And we wanted to note it would be incredibly hard to translate from native ASL to English. It's so hard to get the subtitles unless you are signing really slow. So my question for you is, would automatic subtitling plus a voice interpreter suffice? Anyone ready to answer that question? This is Erin here. I think I'm going to go ahead and answer that question. But I'll give a moment to Adrienne if you'd like to go ahead and do so.
No, go ahead and answer, Erin.
All right, so this is Erin here. I'm going to go ahead and respond to your question, Buck. And hello to you. Now, automatic captions are not always on point. You know, they will run in Zoom, and automatic captions don't always recognize accents. So they may actually miss parts of the English that's been interpreted from the interpreters and then cause some confusion. The interpreters do voice, but it doesn't always make it accurate into the automatic captions in Zoom. And in an ideal world, we would hire a captionist to provide the live captionings. That way, everything is more accurate and fitting exactly what the signer is being said and what is being interpreted by the interpreter. But unfortunately, tonight, we don't have that option. But we really do appreciate your comment because that's certainly something we're going to keep in the back of our minds for the future, because we're going to keep going. And we really appreciate your support from France. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it. So I do want to just turn it over to Adrienne for an additional comment. Just give me a moment, Adrienne, while I spotlight you.
Hi, Adrienne is saying everything that Erin said, yes. And also, it'd be wonderful if Zoom was able to improve for deaf people and for audiences that are watching deaf presenters. I think it'd be wonderful to have that technological advance. So if they're able to partner with us, maybe, to improve the Zoom experience for deaf people. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne. I appreciate that comment. And I really appreciate the audience being patient while we work with our technology here. But let's move on to our next question. I just want to check in with the panel. Does anyone have any additions? If not, we'll move forward. So our next question again is from an anonymous attendee. The question is, deaf or hearing? BIPOC businesses, film expos, festivals? So Jade, this is specifically for you. Can you go ahead and respond to that question, but just give me one moment while I spotlight.
And thank you for clarifying about the expo question. I am trying to be involved with, I mean, really for us at DTMEC and our team, we believe that we want to work on educating and teaching and working in the festival circuit. And We notice there's a lot of weakness out there, and we're trying to improve accessibility for that. And that's exactly what we're doing here at Sundance. Unfortunately, Sundance was supposed to be in person and was transitioned to online. And that was challenging for us to be here online, to be on Zoom using the technology. I'd much rather be in person. And so trying to participate in the festival, in the community, not sure about deaf festivals per se, but I prefer in-person exposure. So the industry can see that we're out there, to see that we're needed, so that we're able to get more work from that. There's hearing writers and producers in Hollywood that are out there and we want to find them. So we're able to bridge those gaps that are out there, build upon that, and be recognized. It is an issue that there's not very many opportunities for BIPOC deaf talent out there. And so we are game changers, and we want to make strides in the community. And I'm speaking from my personal experience. Sometimes expos aren't really a big benefit to me. So anybody else want to speak on that? But yeah, they're not always a big benefit to me. Rose, did you want to make a comment?
Certainly. This is Erin here. Just give me a moment, Rose, while I spotlight you so you can add to that comment. Thank you. So, you know, the expos can have some benefit for us, but certainly it's not what our goal is. As Jade had just mentioned, we really are trying to, you know, elevate BIPOC deaf talent. If we focus primarily on deaf festivals or deaf expos, our work will not excel in the way that we want. We're trying to kind of open the floodgates and create opportunities in Hollywood. That way there's more opportunities in the industry for BIPOC deaf talent. So that's, you know, related to Jade's comment about, yes, it's nice to go to these target expos, but really the ROI, it's not there. You know, we want to be able to be in these other industries so we can really push our focus and push Hollywood to the point where we need them to be. Thank you so much, Rose, for that addition. So we're going to go ahead to our next question. But before I do that, does any of our panelists want to make a comment? Martha?
Martha is saying yes. I would like to make a comment, but just to add to what everybody is saying, I understand how Jade and everyone feels about expos and festivals not being our priority, but I have to be honest. My experience going to deaf expos, every once in a while, I feel like I don't see a lot of diversity. It's white centered most of the time, and that's what I see at deaf festivals when I go. And so that's still a barrier for us. If deaf festivals could be more broad, I know people are out there selling stuff from their businesses, their merchandise. And so in Hollywood, that's not the best way for us to partner. I mean, we are owed. We're trying to work with Hollywood so we can get that pay that we've deserved for so long. And being at festivals does not always open the doors to those opportunities.
Thank you, Martha. Adrienne, you want to add to that? Just give me a moment. Yes. We also have a focus on creative opportunities for BIPOC deaf talent. And so that's the reason behind why we're so focused on Hollywood, because that is really where the opportunities are. The opportunities are outside the community and in Hollywood. So we want you, BIPOC deaf talent or deaf people out there, to have opportunities. And so that's why it's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne, for your comment. So we're gonna move on to the next question. I know a lot of people have been asking stuff in the chat, just wanting to say thank you. So if you have, they're asking if you can type in the Deaf Talent website so we can look at the merchandise there. And so we can go ahead and buy from DTMEC. We have other merchandise like Adrienne is showing. And so again, the link will be put in the chat. Assigning address, sorry, this is an ASL error. The website will be put in the chat. And Jaren does have another question for DTMEC, or a comment for DTMEC, saying good suggestions. I'll look for opportunities to write authentic reviews and mention DTMEC as a good place to start. Thank you for that. So next question. Someone said, well, Dee said, how has your experience been at Sundance? Do you feel like your participation will open a door for you? I see Adrienne has her hand up, is smiling a little bit.
Here, I'm going to sit back and let someone else take the floor.
Okay, Adrienne can go ahead.
So this is Adrienne here. I'd say that my experience at Sundance has been really interesting because I was involved behind the scenes quite a bit, not so much in the front line here. So we did have this panel. And then we had to do some work to try to find some BIPOC interpreters to bring with us to Sundance. So I've had actually kind of a dual experience. Some of the work, but also some of the pleasure kind of combined together. And it's been extremely busy. But honestly, I feel honored. I'm honored to be in that role and to see the work from my team. And it's just fantastic. I've really, truly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Maleni, we can go ahead and spotlight you.
Spotlight Maleni.
Hi, Maleni is saying, and Erin is saying hi, Maleni. So my experience at Sundance, Maleni is saying, I came with Jade for, back in 2013, 2014, at about that time. And then I hadn't gone till 2017. So there's 2 times that I've been in person. My first time at Sundance, I was so starstruck, so amazed to see so many people, to look at all of the panels and see what was going on, watching the films. And there's some that I couldn't attend, and that was disappointing. So all the screenings, what happened in person was there was no captions except for foreign films. Those had captions. And I was able to watch them. But other films in English didn't have captions. But the topics were great, the panels were great, but there was no interpreter there. There was a couple of panels that had an interpreter, but not all of them. And so This year, online has been a great experience. But back to my time in 2017, 2018, Jade is saying 2019 and Maleni said, oh, 2018. Okay. So back in 2018, there were a few improvements from the first time that I went, but there was a long way to go. We had to educate everyone we met, educate the filmmakers that asked, oh, did you watch my movie? And I said, yes, we loved your movie, but there was no captions. So I didn't understand what was going on. And that shut them up, gave them something to think about. And so we had to teach the filmmakers back in 2019. And so I was happy to meet people in person because that was something that they were ignorant to. And so when they submit their films, they have subtitles, and I hope that all of the films would have subtitles. And Jade has given so much feedback to Sundance and given them ways to improve for the future. But now, this year, with the online panels, it's been amazing. That's not been the case in the past. We have panels with interpreters. And so I'm hoping in person that will be the case so that we're able to network with the interpreters there. And so that the people can truly showcase their work and we can showcase BIPOC deaf talent. So we see everybody in the production. And so I think it's just really important to have access in that way.
Beautiful, Martha Hissing. Jade, Martha, did you want to add something?
Erin is saying, did you have a comment, Martha?
Spotlight Martha, please. Okay. Yes, this is Martha here. That comment is just perfect. I think 2 years ago, 2020 was my first Sundance festival. Jade invited me to attend. She needed some behind the scenes work, and I jumped at that opportunity because I have always wanted to go to Sundance. And finally, it was my opportunity. And it was in 2020 in person. It was just before COVID hit. Remember that, Jade? We just made it. We just made it. It was a fantastic experience to meet the people, just to be around them. Certainly there was frustration with interpreters and access. I realized that there wasn't any BIPOC interpreters. Many of those folks were white individuals, and that was difficult for me. They didn't really align with the content that was being represented. So for example, we would have this panel and then you'd have a white interpreter. It kind of didn't fit, but again, it was access. There was certainly a lot of room for improvement. And I mean, letting us, DTMEC, be involved in providing resources for Sundance has created a better balance for things. I mean, overall, my experience was positive in person, very, very positive. And now here we are, 2022. I was so excited to be in person because it's a huge event. You know, I think there was about 38 festivals.
Yeah, Jade is confirmed.
The 38th year. I apologize. This is the 38th year. And this is the first time in history that we had this opportunity to have this panel. And boom, switched to online. And that just completely changed our expectations. It got really complicated. And you know what? COVID has changed everything in our lives. You know, we have had to learn to adapt and shift things to be online. I mean, Zoom is not exactly deaf friendly, but we're making it work. I mean, unfortunately, technology mishaps have happened, but we made it through. We know that this experience would be much different in person. It really would be groundbreaking. And we recognize the impact would be much more in person than online. But I mean, online is great. However, it's just not the same as in person. We're hoping that next year we're going to have this opportunity again in person. If COVID kind of keeps under wraps, we'll see how that goes. But it's been a phenomenal experience. It's been a phenomenal experience. in person again is always best.
Erin is saying, thank you, Martha. Now we can move on to Jade's comment. Jade has something to add.
Thank you, Martha, for sharing your experience and Maleni sharing your experience in 2014, 2019, and 2020. Yes. So this year, 2022, it just was unique. If I look about my experience in person and think about that, not having access to caption, there was some access to caption, there was some captioning available for the American films. Some did not have captions available. There was an organization that provided some captioning for foreign films. The interpreters were all white interpreters. I had, raised money to bring my own interpreters. And then here we came to this year and just, wow. I blogged about this to kind of share my experience, but for DTMEC to hire our own interpreters, we had contracts from the 20th to the 24th. And we thought even to add an additional day to make things work out. It was fantastic. We wanted this visibility for the BIPOC interpreters. And we gave our big props to Sundance for allowing us to make this happen, because it really is critical. But then everything got switched to online. Everything got flipped online, and all the movies were captioned. All of them. I watched some of the films, and there were some limitations. Some were about an hour. One film I would watch, I would pause it, go work out, come back, cook something, sleep, and then get back on and finish. It was kind of hard just to sit and watch one completely all the way through, but I appreciate the ability to kind of have some control. There were some limitations, which was difficult, but frankly, I had access to all the films. Sundance, just did their thing. They did their thing. Although we wanted to be in person and we had to switch online, we kind of went with it. There are some pros and cons. But Sundance, I give you a lot of props. They did their thing there by making this work. I'll turn it over to Rose.
Erin saying, hold on, Rose, I will spotlight you. And Rose is saying, I did want to add to what Jade was saying. This year, unfortunately, was not in person, and that's okay. But one big thing that was a huge positive to us, even though it wasn't in person, was that our team was bonded. For the first time, we got to stay in a room and work together to try and navigate the panel, to watch different events, and just work out the interpreters. And so we were able to bond through this experience, truthfully. And so that's a big positive. Of course, in person would have been great so we could network with different people at Sundance, but I choose to think positive, and just, I feel like we're able to develop with our team online. And so truthfully, we were bonded. So I think that was a blessing in disguise in some ways.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Any other comments from the panelists before we move on to the next question Erin is saying? Okay. Adrienne, you do have a comment. Okay, spotlight Adrienne for a moment.
Yes, I do. I really, really, really want Martha to share a little bit about the role of deaf people in Hollywood. You know, way back when we were doing silent films. Martha, please, would you mind sharing just a little bit of that?
Martha's saying yes. I would have to condense it quite a bit, but I can try. And Jade is saying you are on a time crunch. And Martha's saying I can go ahead and try to keep it simple. But back when Hollywood was just in its origins, there was Charlie Chaplin. He was one of the stars, master of comedy, right? And so started developing scripts, making films, was looking for talent. And he went on over to a restaurant and saw a deaf couple there. And they were sitting, eating at the restaurant and signing. Imagine that was in the early 1900s, quite a bit of time ago. And Charlie Chaplin saw this deaf couple signing using their expressions. He came to speak to them and asked to be part of his production. And so he gave his business card to them. And so this deaf guy, Graybill, he could not read or write, but fortunately his deaf wife could. And so his deaf wife said, you have to contact Charlie Chaplin because he's a famous movie star. This is a very important person to work with. And so they're able to get connected, and Charlie Chaplin asked this deaf man to teach him and find different deaf actors to participate in their film. And even though there were hearing people there, they did learn sign, body language to participate with these deaf actors, 5 deaf actors for Charlie Chaplin's movies. And so this was until, unfortunately, sound was invented with Gone with the Wind. They added sound to movies, and that changed the course of everything. And they fired all 5 deaf actors in his film, except for the Graybill, because they didn't need deaf actors because sound was invented. And so that was a big deal. Makes me wonder about the first people on the job in Hollywood. There were deaf people as a part of that team. And again, this is a very condensed history. So hopefully that satisfied Adrienne's question to me. Yes. Erin is saying, okay, thank you, Martha, for that short and sweet story, that rich amount of information. We do have one more question from the audience, and then we're going to have to wrap up everybody's comments. So we can go ahead and spotlight Adrienne.
Yeah, so, the reason why I asked Martha to share that short story with you was because I want you to just open your mind. That deaf people have already been working in Hollywood for years. They are very creative. Deaf people are very creative. And it's important to recognize us. And it's important to hire us. So, I appreciate you making the time to listen to us. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Adrienne, for your comment. And so now we do have a last question. I'm just making sure that I get it situated. This is our final question for this evening, and it is from Buck Rogers. Buck and Vanessa said, suggested just an idea for everybody to set up an office for DTMEC in Hollywood where they make the movies. So the local community would see its publicity and maybe some doors can open from there. because of this office in Hollywood. Thank you. Does anybody want to, I see someone has their hand up. Okay. I'm going to spotlight Jade so she can answer that. Go ahead, Jade.
Well, like I said, we've been building such fabulous ideas, and we're trying to just make our place here at Hollywood. I just can't help but think about the collaboration opportunities with perhaps even Warner Studios. You know, perhaps a picture in their office of us sitting together and just looking at a sign that of which could be deaf talent, DTMEC, on their wall. For me, that is a dream, and it's possible. I believe it can happen. Someone else want to make anyone else want to add to that?
Martha's saying no. But Erin has her hand up, and so does Adrienne. I'll go ahead and spotlight Adrienne. Erin is saying.
You know, so first, I just want to give a big thank you for making this possible, because we have an amazing team. We have this connection. We have this connection behind the scenes that's really important. There are so many people that are standing behind us and supporting us. And these projects happen. DTMEC has our own office, and it's just fantastic. It would be amazing to be there in Hollywood, though. Thank you so much. Jade here. I'd just like to add to that. Hold on.
Erin is saying, okay. Go ahead, Jade.
I do want to just add that, you know, to that concept of building an office. An office in Hollywood. That would be a fantastic idea, of course. But we could also work with production companies, activists, or organizations. You know, I don't want to name specifically who, but we are actually working to make some of this change happen. We're getting our hands dirty in a positive way. We are making things happen. So that's it.
Erin is saying yes. Thank you, Jade. And there's some resounding thank yous for her comment in the panel. Thank you so much for everybody's questions. I hope they were answered. I know we're coming to the close, but I hope to get some final thoughts from everybody. If there are any curiosities, anything that you want to think about, maybe go ahead and look at our website. You can still contact us after this panel. We've placed our email address in the chat, and so looking forward to you reaching out to us. Again, our website has an FAQ. There are some questions that have already been answered there, and so go ahead and take a look at that. You might wonder, who are the people in DTMEC? What do we do? You can click on our FAQ, and there's some answers available there. And if there is something that you have in mind that's not on our FAQ, go ahead and reach out to us and ask. So yes, yay.
Hand waves, thank you so much.
And so before we make our next steps, I want everybody from the DTMEC panel, Maleni, Rose, Martha, Adrienne, Jade, any final thoughts, anything you want to leave with the audience, any comments, any visions, dreams, before we leave, to just, you know, touch them and think, hey, I was here. So anybody?
Adrienne here. And so my final thought is always, my thought to you, my share to you is to plan your path. Plan your path through this industry, because remember, every person who helped you, you have to remember to say thank you to them. You got to remember to honor people's time. We don't want to be wasting their time. If you're reaching out because you need some information, maybe it's mentorship, it's very important that you're clear about what that need is. And make sure you have a specific goal in mind when you are reaching out to individuals. Learn about who they are and learn about their background. And you do that before you reach out. And you really need to stay professional the entire time, always, particularly in this industry. Thank you.
Okay. Just spotlighting myself. Who's next for their final thoughts, final shares? Jade, go ahead.
I want to say thank you to our participants, to listening to our stories and our experiences, even for this panel. Sorry. This is just the start. There's going to be many more opportunities. There's just so much more. It's so hard to put it all out there, but we have goals. And we need to kind of come up with a name. Maybe it's Deafwood. I don't know. Deaf Hollywood. I don't know, somehow to make our space there. But we do just want Hollywood to be comfortable with us. We want them to trust us and don't have any fear about, reaching out to us. If you're not quite sure who to contact, you can contact Maleni or Rose, or just if you're looking for a director, reach out to us. We'll help you find someone. Don't create barrier. Don't feel that that's a barrier for you. We can take that down and work together. We're ready and waiting to work with you. So let's go ahead, make it happen.
Thank you, Jade, for your wonderful comment. Okay. Okay, so this is the end of our panel. Again, I wanted to thank everybody for coming tonight. If you came to the last panel, came tonight, we're just really happy that you're here, participating in the chat, watching us. Thank you. And so I guess we're ready to close out. Again, take a look at our website if you have any additional questions. Check the FAQ. And if it's not answered there, then contact us. We look forward to partnering with you all in the future. And remember, dreams can come true. Manifest it. If you believe it, then be it. And just put it out there in the universe. There are no limits. So just listen to Black and Brown stories and be comfortable with that conversation. We're here. We're fighting for it. And there is BIPOC deaf talent out there in the world. So thank you for your support. Sundance, thank you for your support. Thank you for the allies out there. I really appreciate it. And so I want to wish you guys a good night. And Jade is saying, thank you, Sundance. Thank you, interpreters. Thank you, Pro Bono ASL. Love you guys. And bye.
Good night, everyone.